the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Good evening, I am Samia Mohammed and this is Pulse of Africa Evening News. Stay with us for more stories shaping Africa and beyond. Africa Union and United Nations double down on peace progress. The African Union Commission Chairperson Mohamed Ali Yusuf and the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently co-chaired their 9th annual conference in New York. They firmly reaffirmed the AU-UN partnership as an essential for global peace and security and sustainable development. Both leaders voiced serious alarm regarding ongoing armed conflicts, humanitarian crisis, and the weakening of international law. They stressed that political solutions must be prioritized, advocating for greater use of preventive diplomacy, mediation, and dialogue to address these complex issues. The conference reviewed joint efforts across peace, security, development, and human rights, highlighting positive implementation of existing AU-UN frameworks. They reiterated their commitment to backing African-led peace process in critical regions, including Sudan, Somalia, and Sahel and the Great Lakes region. A key focus was securing predictable and sustainable financing for AU-led peace support operations, citing UN Security Council Resolution 2719. Collaboration on the digital transformation, climate action, and inclusive development was also emphasized, referencing initiatives like the G20 AI for Africa and the Africa Climate Summit outcomes. Finally, the two leaders stressed the vital role of women and youth in advancing stability and growth, welcoming the AU's Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. They agreed to hold the 10th annual conference in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 2026 to continue their strategic partnership. Australia's ambassador to Ethiopia affirmed his country's support for ensuring that Africa's voice is heard loud and clear on the global stage. Australia's ambassador to Ethiopia, Dr. Peter Hunter, has granted an exclusive interview to Pulse of Africa, underscoring the depth and breadth of relations between the two nations. Dr. Hunter noted that partnership spans people-to-people connections, scholarships, trade, and investment, with many Ethiopians in the diaspora contributing productively to Australia's economy and society. He emphasized that Australia is working closely with both the Ethiopian people and government to strengthen cooperation. The ambassador praised Ethiopia's ongoing economic reforms, stating that they are boosting investor confidence and opening new opportunities. He highlighted Australia's role as a major participant in the mining sector, while also expressing interest in expanding collaboration in tourism and agriculture. Dr. Hunter further commended the recent transformation of Addis Ababa, describing it as a sign of Ethiopia's progress.
Progress is spectacular. The speed and scale of the economic changes and the development of the city are truly impressive. As I mentioned, I've only been here 1 year, but even in that time, from week to week, we can see the speed at which the capital is developing. I think that's a really important connection to the other part of your question around how does the international community engage here in Addis Ababa. You're very right to emphasize the importance of the African Union here. That institution is pivotal to the international community's engagement with Africa through Addis Ababa. And it's so important that with Australia's representation here, having that connection to the African Union headquarters is absolutely fundamental to our engagement, not just with Ethiopia, but with all the member states of the African Union. Another layer to that, of course, is Addis Ababa is quite famous for being a hub of diplomatic engagement. There is a very large diplomatic community here.
On the global stage, Dr. Hunter affirmed Australia's support for reform of the multilateral system, stressing that Africa's voice must be heard more prominently in international decision-making.
We are strongly in favour of not just supporting and strengthening the international multilateral system, which is facing many challenges. So we are very strong supporters of multilateralism, but also we are a strong supporter of reform to the multilateral system to reflect this need for change. And Australia will be now and in the future a very strong supporter of the idea of growing African representation and African voices in the multilateral system. We are absolutely behind that idea, including here in Addis Ababa through the African Union and the UN.
Addressing regional challenges, the ambassador acknowledged the complex problems facing the Horn of Africa and expressed Australia's support for Ethiopia's meaningful contributions to security and development in the region.
There are so many challenges in this region that are long-term and quite difficult to address. In regard to those challenges, Australia strongly supports Ethiopia's pivotal role. The government and the people of Ethiopia have been working very hard to make a meaningful difference to some of these challenges. It can include the regional security challenges that you've just spoken about, but there are other interconnected. Many of these challenges are connected to one another. Yes. So security is connected to climate challenges and climate change and food security. That's all connected to issues around addressing counterterrorism and the like.
El Dorado, a land of wealth, a future of limitless possibilities. This is El Dorado. From natural rich to groundbreaking innovations, discover Africa's untapped potential. El Dorado.
As we know, Africa is endowed with a significant amount of minerals.
Africa, rich in critical energy minerals like lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements, offers transformative investment opportunities as the world shifts toward a clean energy transition.
Africa needs to ensure that this demand translates into tangible benefits for our people, fostering inclusive and sustainable growth at home.
El Dorado, unveiling Africa's global potential.
Regional health leaders to convene on boosting emergency preparedness. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, alongside partners, is convening the third Regional Advisory Committee meeting for the World Bank-funded HEPRR-MPA project in Lusaka, Zambia from November 18 to 20, 2025 to strengthen health systems, resilience and enhance multi-sectoral preparedness across Eastern and Southern Africa. This vital regional initiative aims to improve emergency response capabilities across the region. Participating countries include Ethiopia, Kenya, Zambia, Mozambique, and 8 others, with Angola and Tanzania expected to join later. The RAC functions as the program's strategic governance and oversight body. It's mandated to provide strategic direction, foster regional collaboration, and ensure the alignment of national health priorities with the broader regional objectives. IGAD and ECSAHC coordinate the logistics at the Secretariat. Key objectives for the third Regional Advisory Committee meeting include reviewing progress since the November 2024 meeting, strengthening regional coordination, and endorsing the HEPRR program's learning agenda. Expected outcomes are policy recommendations to accelerate implementation and comprehensive documentation for lessons learned for future regional benefit. The meeting features high-level attendees, including permanent secretaries and directors of national public health institutes, alongside key international development partners. The event, which includes a field visit to observe preparedness initiatives in Zambia, will be presided over by Dr. Elijah Muchima, Minister of Health of Zambia. Africa's AI ambition take global stage at the 9th edition of Viva Tech. The 9th edition of Viva Tech, Europe's premier tech and innovation event held in Paris, prominently featured Africa's growing influence in the global tech ecosystem. The dominant theme of the event was artificial intelligence, which was presented as a unique opportunity for African nations to start from scratch and leapfrog into the digital future. Françoise Bitvouzet, Viva Tech's managing director, highlighted Africa's natural advantage, stating that digital talent and an ability to surprise the world positioned the continent perfectly for the AI frontier. He emphasized that in this new technological era, past deficits and infrastructure like cloud and massive data storage no longer matter. Permanent African delegations include Côte d'Ivoire and Senegal. Côte d'Ivoire showcased startups like CellArts, a platform connecting African artists with global buyers. Senegal's delegation of 15 startups actively sought strategic investment, with Minister Aissatou Mbouji confirming that investors are actively seeking out Africa's high-potential ventures. Large corporations recognize this value, with EDF noting that Africa is the cradle of innovation. The company's head of African communication emphasized that corporate giants are now co-creating with African startups because their frugal yet agile approach is driving shared growth and new solutions. The event's highlight was the Africa Tech Awards, honoring breakthrough startups from Senegal, Congo, and Côte d'Ivoire, demonstrating the continent's dynamic innovation scene. With 45 African startups competing, the clear message from Viva Tech 2025 is that Africa is not just catching up, but actively shaping the future of global tech. Now to business news. South Africa vows G20 presidency will champion Africa's depth and development. South Africa has reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring its G20 presidency serves as an African presidency focusing on continent-wide issues of solidarity, equality and sustainability. This pledge was highlighted during the G20 Africa high-level dialogue on debt sustainability, cost of capital and financing reforms held at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. The upcoming G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa on November 22 to 23 on 2025 is intended to strike at the heartbeat of reforming the international financial and economic architecture, according to Deputy Minister Alvin Bolts. Key discussions are centered on Africa's high debt burden, the soaring cost of capital, and the stalled progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals. To address these financial challenges, Bolts advocated for a major review of credit rating systems, proposing that multilateral institutions strengthen cooperation with the AU's emerging Pan-African Credit Rating Agency. He also called for a review of borrowing costs and fairer allocation and use of special drawing rights to help least developed countries meet their 2030 SDG targets. The South African presidency has outlined 4 strategic priorities for its G20 term, ensuring debt resilience for low-income countries, strengthening disaster risk reduction, fostering inclusive economic growth and industrialization, and harnessing artificial intelligence and data governance to drive Africa's industrial future. Discussions in Addis Ababa will inform future high-level events, including AU-EU engagements in Rwanda and Angola. Ultimately, both stated these efforts are designed to renew the G20 commitment to solidarity, leverage sustainability opportunities, and ensure Africa's voice remains central in shaping global economic governance. Mozambique enters African Gas League with first local LPG. Mozambique has officially joined Africa's gas-producing nations following the successful launch of its first ever locally produced liquefied petroleum gas. This milestone, facilitated by successful experimental loading by Sasol, signals a new era for the country's energy sector and strengthens its position in Africa's growing movement toward local hydrocarbon processing. The LPG is produced at the newly constructed Advanced Integrated Processing Facility in Inhasoro, in Hambane province. This facility is a key component of the production sharing agreement involving Sasol, the Mozambican government, and the National Hydrocarbons Company. The Inhasoro IPF has the capacity to generate up to 30,000 tons of liquefied petroleum gas annually. According to Sasol, this domestic production is projected to slash Mozambique's cooking gas imports by approximately 70%, ensuring a more stable, affordable, and predictable supply for local households. This success highlights a strategic move to monetize natural gas domestically rather than export exporting new resources, thereby creating greater value for the local market. Sassol's Managing Director Ovidio Rodolfo emphasized that this is a significant step toward energy self-sufficiency and industrial growth through local value creation. Mozambique's entry into this league follows Africa leaders like Algeria and Nigeria in prioritizing local liquefied petroleum gas production for energy security. The project positions Mozambique as a model for other African nations seeking to reduce import reliance, expand clean cooking access, and promote domestic economic development. Finally, African teams step up preparation ahead of AFCON 2025, with the highly anticipated African Cup of Nations set to kick off in Morocco from December 21 to January 18. National teams across the continent are intensifying their preparations through a series of high-profile international friendlies. Officials say these matches serve a dual purpose, providing competitive action while allowing coaches to fine-tune tactics, test squad depth, and build team cohesion ahead of Africa's premier football tournament. Among the standout fixtures this month is the clash between Brazil and Tunisia, scheduled at Pierre-Moret Stadium in Lille, France. The encounter comes 3 years after the last meeting, promising to be a major test for Tunisia against the five-time world champion, popularly known as Salacio. Algeria, meanwhile, will begin their campaign with a friendly against Zimbabwe on November 13, followed by showdown with Saudi Arabia, coached by Hervé Renard, on November 18. These matches are seen as crucial for Algeria as they look to sharpen their squad and regain continental dominance. Elsewhere, Angola's crowned world champions in 2022 will host Argentina in Luanda on November 14, a fixture expected to draw significant attention given Argentina's global stature and Angola's ambition to prove themselves against elite opposition. Analysts note that these friendlies not only boost morale but also provide valuable opportunities for African teams to measure themselves against world-class opponents, setting the stage for what promises to be a thrilling AFCON 2025 in Morocco. Let's take a look at the current forecast and what conditions to expect across the region. That's all from Pulse of Africa News for the hour. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more updates from Africa.
El Dorado, a land of wealth, a future of limitless possibilities. This is El Dorado. From natural rich to groundbreaking innovations, discover Africa's untapped potential. El Dorado, unveiling Africa's global potential.
Good evening and welcome. I am Zelalem Ibeltal, and tonight we take you on a journey across Africa's vast mineral landscape, a story of abundance, opportunity and transformation. Africa is home to some of the world's richest deposits of gold, diamonds, platinum, cobalt and rare earth minerals. From the copper belt of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo to the gold mines of Ghana and South Africa, the continent's soil holds treasures that have shaped economies and influenced global industries for centuries. But this story is not just about resources beneath the ground. It is about the people, the communities, and the nations striving to turn mineral wells into sustainable development. It is about innovation, resilience, and the quest to ensure that Africa's natural riches benefit Africans first. In today's El Dorado, we will explore how countries are harnessing these resources. Stay with us as we uncover the promise and the paradox of Africa's mineral abundance and what it means for the continent's next chapter of growth and prosperity.
Africa's rising demand for sustainable investment and its vast potential. Africa, rich in critical energy minerals like lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements, offers transformative investment opportunities as the world shifts toward a clean energy transition.
As we know, Africa is endowed with significant amount of minerals. We have 30% of the total reserves in Africa. Especially we have the green minerals, the critical minerals that are good for the energy transition. These are cobalt, graphite, manganese, lithium, and others. And we also have others such as gold, diamonds, precious metals, opal in Ethiopia. We have so many potential, 90% of chromium, platinum, so much potential in Africa.
The continent holds about 30% of the world's critical mineral reserves, including 55% of global cobalt, 47.65% of manganese, 21.6% of natural graphite, 5.9% of copper, 5.6% of nickel, 1% of lithium, and 0.6% of iron ore. These minerals are essential for the production of batteries, fuel cells, and other components used in electric vehicles, renewable energy technologies, medical supplies, and high-performance metals in engines, including those used for defense and military applications. Africa's vast mineral wealth places Africa as a competitive hub for green technology advancement. According to the 2024 Global Critical Minerals Market Review by the International Energy Agency, investment in critical mineral mining grew by 10% in 2023, with lithium investment rising sharply by 60% despite weak prices. This growth shows the strategic approach many mineral-rich countries are adopting for development. While the African Union is yet to announce a formal strategy on critical minerals, the African Minerals Development Center is developing an African Green Minerals Strategy, which aims to guide African countries on how to exploit their raw materials.
Africa's minerals are strategic for its development and critical for the global economy and industrialization and infrastructure building in Africa. While supplying minerals to the green transition, Africa needs to ensure that this demand translates into tangible benefits for our people, fostering inclusive and sustainable growth at home.
However, Africa has not reached its full potential, as it is estimated that African countries generate about 40% of the revenue it could from these resources. To reach its full potential and meet international quality standards, Africa needs to focus on expanding investment opportunities. Attracting foreign investment for these minerals begins with strengthening internal efforts, modernizing mining operations by upgrading equipment, and prioritizing high-value production such as refining battery-guide lithium instead of exporting raw materials. For economic growth, on-site mineral processing is crucial as it increases export revenues and creates jobs across the supply chain. Investing in STEM education at universities and research institutions is equally important. It fosters innovation, supports knowledge transfer, and encourages industry partnerships with mining companies. Ensuring global competitiveness also requires strengthening infrastructure like roads, rail, and ports, which evidently boosts supply chain efficiency and elevates Africa's attractiveness to global investors. Additionally, regional trade and economic integration through agreements such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, which represents a market of 1.3 billion people and a GDP of over $3.4 trillion, can facilitate intra-African trade in minerals and technology, reducing dependence on external markets and fostering industrial growth. Further, by investing in modern logistics, streamlined regulations, and efficient cross-border trade policies, African nations have a great chance at maximizing the value of their mineral resources. Despite its potential, the exploitation of critical minerals in Africa is fueling geopolitical conflicts, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country rich in immense mineral resources. The M23 rebel group has escalated conflict over critical minerals, causing displacement and loss of lives. Labor exploitation is also a major concern, with an estimated 100 million artisanal miners globally. Over 40,000 children are engaged in artisanal cobalt mining in the DRC, earning less than the national minimum wage of $5 per day. In the business sphere, institutions that once stood for peacekeeping and international stability are now failing. This calls for a shifted focus on peace and conflict resolution, with major platforms such as the United Nations and the African Union increasing their efforts for the human rights violation happening in these nations. In order to balance mining profits with ethical considerations, sustainable mining practices must be prioritized, where policies encourage the use of renewable energy in mining operations to reduce environmental impact, and governments must strengthen labor laws and corporate accountability to fight child labor and exploitative working conditions in the industry. African nations should develop national strategies tailored to their distinctive mineral resources and industrial capabilities. Governments must implement policies that promote investment in mineral processing, while these fair labor practices and environmental protection are in place. Even engaging the African diaspora, many who have expertise in engineering, technology, and business could help facilitate knowledge transfer, industry partnerships, and economic collaboration. Africa stands at a critical time with its vast reserves of minerals, with the continent having great potential to drive economic growth, create jobs, and secure future wealth for its countries. However, realizing this potential requires more than just resource extraction. It demands strategic investment, regional cooperation, and a commitment to ethical and sustainable mining practices. The path forward is clear. With the right policies, investments, and international partnership, Africa could not only meet the world's growing demand for critical minerals, but also shape a future that is prosperous for the continent.
That brings us to the end of this week's edition of El Dorado, where we journey through Africa's rich mineral resources. El Dorado is Pulse of Africa's weekly program dedicated to showcasing the continent's natural wealth and potential. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, goodbye.
El Dorado, a land of wealth, a future of limitless possibilities. This is El Dorado. From natural rich to groundbreaking innovations, discover Africa's untapped potential. El Dorado, unveiling Africa's global potential.